My name is Jacob. I'm probably the most nervous I've ever been in my life right now. That's because today is the day I'm going to Sarah's house to formally ask her for her hand in marriage. Sarah and I were classmates back in middle school, and we started dating after we reconnected at a school reunion about 6 months ago. We're both over 30 now, and naturally, we've been talking a lot about our future. Sarah often brought up marriage. While Sarah did put a bit of pressure on me, I was also considering settling down, and so we decided to get married. Because of that, I regret not being able to propose to her properly. We decided to get married before we really planned anything, and it was only a few days ago that we decided I would go to her house to formally ask for her hand. I've never met Sarah's parents since we started dating, but I once caught a glimpse of her father. It was either at a parent-teacher conference or at a school fair during our middle school years. I remember him talking about education with our homeroom teacher. While he seemed a bit intimidating at the time, I was impressed by how passionate a father could be about his child's education. That's probably because I lost my own father when I was in elementary school, and he was a man who didn't interfere much and let me do what I wanted to do. So the memory of Sarah's father talking with the teacher was particularly vivid. He must be a very serious person. So what will he think when he finds out we decided to get married on a whim and that I didn't propose properly? He might even say that our relationship of only 6 months is too short. The more I think about it, the more anxious I become, and I didn't sleep well last night. As I struggled to eat my breakfast, my mom looked at me with concern. I told her I was going to introduce her to my girlfriend soon. I haven't told her yet that it's Sarah, as I wanted to surprise her. My parents were also middle school classmates, so I think she will be happy to find out that my future wife is also a classmate. After my father passed away, our family struggled financially, and I had to start working right after graduating from middle school. I owe it to my mom that I managed to stay on the right path. She's always been upbeat, never talks bad about others, and is very positive. Because of her, I've always been able to live with hope. My mom rarely asks about my love life or whether I have a girlfriend. We live together, and she knows I'm busy, so I think she's just being considerate. I want to reassure her. That's why I absolutely have to make today's meeting a success. I feel like I'm about to get an ulcer. But seeing me so nervous, my mom patted me on the back and said with a smile, "Go and nail it, son." That's right. There's no point in being weak. I need to pull myself together. With that in mind, I headed to Sarah's house. When I arrived, Sarah opened the door and welcomed me inside. "My parents are waiting," she said, and a wave of anxiety hit me. When I entered the living room, Sarah's parents were sitting on the couch, and they smiled at me. "Thanks for coming. We've been waiting," they said with a smile, and I felt relieved. It's not scary at all. They seem very welcoming, and I think this could go well. After introducing myself, Sarah's mom served some tea. "Thank you," I said. "Turns out you were in middle school with Sarah? I had no idea. Were you ever in the same class as Sarah?" she asked. I told her that we'd never been in the same class, but Sarah had spoken to me at the school reunion. "Oh, I see. But I should remember you if you were a top student, even from another class," she mused, resting a hand on her cheek, looking puzzled. Before I could reply, Sarah chimed in with a chuckle. "Jacob wasn't exactly a star student, was he? Always around average, right?" I wish she hadn't been so blunt, but it was too late. I glanced over and saw Sarah's mom looking at me with an indescribable expression. Sarah's comment had changed the tone in the room. What was once a pleasant atmosphere had now become heavy and silent. After a moment of awkward silence, Sarah's dad broke it. "What college did you attend?" I never went to college. In fact, I hadn't even finished high school. Well, actually, I started working right after middle school. I was planning to be honest about my past when a cup of tea came flying at me before I could finish my sentence. At the same time, a shout echoed, "Don't mess with me. I let you into my home because Sarah told me you were a CEO. What's this? You've been working since middle school? So you're a dropout? A company run by someone like you can't be reliable. With the startup boom, You're just riding the wave, and you'll fail soon. That's certain." Sarah's dad glared at me, flabbergasted. He grabbed my collar and bellowed, "What's your motive? Trying to cash in because I'm an executive at a major corporation?" I desperately tried to deny it, but he wasn't listening. "I can't trust a word from a high school dropout. This isn't a place for the uneducated. Get out," he said, tossing me aside and throwing a teacup at me. After that, I couldn't even explain the misunderstanding, let alone calm him down. He kicked me, and I fell to the ground. Sarah and her mom just watched. As I lay there, disappointed they hadn't helped me, everything went black. He had flipped the dining table at me. I tried to dodge, but the table hit my foot. Overwhelmed by the intense pain, I let out a muffled groan. Sarah's dad scoffed. "You're overreacting. It couldn't hurt that much." Sarah's mom added, "You're quite fragile for a man." Even Sarah chimed in. "This is so pathetic." I knew I had to leave. Despite the lingering pain in my foot, I somehow managed to leave Sarah's house. When I got home, my mom, who had been eagerly waiting for me, rushed out to greet me. The moment I saw her, I passed out from relief. "Jacob! Thank God you're awake!" When I opened my eyes, my mom's worried face was hovering over me. Her eyes were filled with tears. As I regained consciousness, I remembered what happened at Sarah's house. I was supposed to make her happy, but instead, I made her worry and sad. "I'm sorry, Mom. I don't think I can introduce you to my girlfriend after all," I admitted. When I told her this, my mom said, "Don't worry about it, Jacob. I'm just relieved you woke up. I was really surprised when you collapsed in front of me." Apparently, due to the shock, I had slept for a full day. According to what my mom heard from the doctor, it seems that the bone in my toe is broken. I can be discharged from the hospital soon, but it seems like it'll take about a month to heal. They also said they found bruises all over your body. I won't force you to talk, but if you can, could you tell me what happened? Prompted by my mom, I explained the events of the day. The moment I mentioned the surname of Sarah, Mom's face changed color. "Johnson? You don't mean..." It appears that when I was in junior high school, my mom was criticized by Sarah's dad, who said having a child of a single parent around is a bad influence on my daughter. My father was no longer around when I was in junior high. My mom was busy with work every day and was only able to come to school events once during the 3 years. She was told such a thing by Sarah's dad on that single occasion. Mom must have been deeply hurt. I didn't know anything about it because my mom never said anything about it and didn't show it in her behavior at all. But now, my mom is making a very frustrated face, saying, "I can't believe that the person who said such a thing hurt my son." The moment I saw that expression on my mom's face, my anger reached its boiling point. It's not just that he looked down on me for being a junior high school graduate, but he also oppressed my mom in the past. I made a determination to get back at them, father and daughter. The next day, I headed for Sarah's house again. I contacted her in advance, but Sarah didn't seem to feel guilty about what happened, and rather blamed me for the lack of communication during the full day I was unconscious. So, she was like that. I felt pathetic thinking that the person I decided to marry was like that, but I also thought it was a good thing that I got to know before getting married. When I arrived at Sarah's house, both her father and mother were waiting outside. "Daring to come back here? Don't you dare step foot in this house again." Sarah's father was already on the offensive. He didn't mention at all that I was on crutches with a cast on my left foot. "I have no intention of stepping in again. I've decided to file a complaint, so I came to report it today," I said. At my words, the two looked at each other and started laughing. "Wait, are you serious about the complaint? You weren't seriously injured. It's absurd to sue your fiancé's dad," Sarah retorted. I informed her that the engagement was off. I thought they would be a little flustered if I mentioned the complaint and the breakup of the engagement, but that was not the case. Sarah said, "Don't give up just because the greeting didn't go well. If you apologize, Jacob, I'll ask my dad to give you another chance." "What do I have to apologize for?" My blood boiled and I clearly stated, "I have nothing to apologize for. I'm serious about both the breakup of the engagement and the complaint." Then Sarah arrogantly said, "Playing the tragic hero, huh? My father could easily squash a little thing like a police report. He'd even make this broken engagement disappear if it happened now. Unbelievable. How dare she act so high and mighty? Then, even Sarah's dad chimed in. Sarah, we're better off without a man like this. Go ahead. File a police report if you want. I doubt you've got enough evidence for it to mean anything anyway, he said, laughing mockingly. Like father, like daughter. That phrase suddenly felt very fitting. Are you sure about that? I decided to throw a wrench in the laughing family's mood. You have no proof that I did anything, so the police can't do anything. You thought I'd back down if you mentioned a police report, didn't you? Fool. You should know better than to think that would scare me. With his hands on his hips, Sarah's father laughed confidently. That's when I decided to show him the reality of the situation. Actually, that's the evidence. Apparently not understanding what I meant. The three of them just gaped at me. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. I've been recording everything since before I arrived. I needed to gather evidence that my injuries were caused by you. No matter how high up you are in a big corporation, you can't hide from an assault charge when the evidence is all laid out, right? At this, instead of apologizing, Sarah's father started yelling at me. How dare you! Go ahead, file your report. There's no way I'm letting you marry Sarah. Sarah's mom, who had been quiet until now, began to panic. We can still forgive him if we do it now, right, honey? No need. As I said earlier, the engagement is off, and I will file a report. I don't want to marry someone who doesn't care when their fiancé is injured and who joins their parents in making fun of me. When I said that, Sarah, who had been looking down on me until just now, started to panic. You're lying, Jacob. You said you wanted to marry me, you liar. Sarah's dad then started. You low-educated punk. I'll never forgive you. And lunged at me. The shock of his punch threw me off balance, and I fell to the ground. Sarah's mom desperately tried to stop her husband, who was about to start punching me while I was down. Honey, this is bad. We don't know who might be watching. But Sarah's dad didn't stop. You're just a figurehead CEO. You lured Sarah with that. And now you're going to sue me? I'll sue you for fraud. Then I'll have to cancel our $5 million order to your company. I'd been thinking about it for a while, and I'd made up my mind. I was going to corner this man as much as possible. What are you talking about? $5 million? There's no way you can make a deal like that. Sarah's father got off me, calling me an idiot. It was time to show him reality. I called my mother. What are you going to achieve by calling your mother? Sarah told me you only have one parent. How sad that you only have your mother to help you in times like this. It really does make a difference not having a father, huh? Sarah's father, who didn't know what was coming, still looked down on me. It was almost comical. About 10 minutes later, the moment I was waiting for arrived. Sarah's father's cell phone began to ring. He said it was from his company and answered the call. At first, he spoke with clear and confident tones, but his speech gradually became sluggish, and his face turned pale. As soon as he ended the call, he glared at me, saying, What the hell have you done? I did exactly what I said earlier. I canceled the order. I didn't want to do business with a company that looks down on people for being less educated or from single-parent families. I explained calmly. But Sarah's father didn't seem convinced. There's no way someone with your low education level could do that. Do you have connections or something? He scoffed, still looking down on me for my limited education. I lost any desire to continue the conversation. Believe what you want. Goodbye, I said, and I turned on my heel. Sarah's father tried to chase after me, shouting, Wait a minute! But he was cornered by Sarah and her mother, asking, What's this about, $5 million? What was that phone call about? He couldn't move. I did indeed only finish middle school, and it could be said that I just caught the startup wave. But I started a business with the money I saved with my mother, and it was successful enough to trade with major companies now. I called my mother, who was the vice president of my company, and had her contact Sarah's father's company. I didn't want to bring personal matters into work, but I had reached my limit. But when I got home and saw my mother's usual cheerful face, I felt guilty. Bringing my personal matters into it, I was finished as a CEO. I also felt sorry for having made my mother take on such an unpleasant role. Sorry, Mom, for making you make that unpleasant call, and for making us have to find another supplier. I apologized. In contrast to my apology, my mother was smiling. When I asked her why, she said, I came up with a good idea and decided on my own without consulting you. the CEO. When my mother called the president of the other company, she reported what Sarah's father had done to me. And it seems she suggested that if Sarah's father was fired, the cancellation of the order could be revoked. Before I got home, the president of the other company called to say that Sarah's father had been fired. My mother, true to her word, seems to have continued the order. I didn't mind making the call, and we didn't have to look for another supplier. We just got rid of a nasty guy who only looked at status and insulted others. With that, my mother encouraged me as if there was nothing to worry about. After that, I received several calls and emails from Sarah pressuring me to marry her, so I blocked her number. According to a story I heard from a middle school classmate after this incident was over, Sarah knew I was the CEO and approached me at the reunion. She probably wanted to be the CEO's wife and started dating and talking about marriage with me. Sarah's father was arrested because I filed a complaint. Sarah's mother, who had been bragging about her husband working for a major company, couldn't bear the eyes of the neighborhood knowing that he had been arrested and seemed to have disappeared somewhere, leaving Sarah behind. It was a fitting ending for a mother and daughter who were only concerned about how they were seen by others. I continued my contract with the company where Sarah's father had been, and we have a good relationship now. There are also talks about new projects, and it seems that busy but fulfilling days will continue for a while.